Hi, everyone. I'm Sarita Bennett, the president of the Midwives Alliance of North America, and I'm here today with Rixa Freeze and Dr. David Hayes to learn more about the pre-conference presentation that they're going to be doing this fall during the month of October that is connected to the online MANA conference. Welcome, Rixa and David. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
I'd like to start out by just opening the floor and asking each of you to give us an idea of what we can expect from your session and why you're looking forward to sharing this information with us.
Yeah. Should I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I'll start off by talking briefly about what I present, and then David will talk about what he talks about. So this is a slightly shorter version of our 2-day workshop that we've been doing around the world. And now that we're starting to offer online due to COVID-19, that's a new reality. So during these 12 hours of presentations, you'll hear me talk a lot about the evidence for breech birth. I go over in detail what is recent with the evidence over the last 2 decades, both for hospital breech births and community breech births. I also talk a lot about nomenclature and the specific risks of different kinds of breech presentations, so footling, frank, complete, etc. And you'll find some very surprising information and things that you might not have known before about some of the risks involved with these different types of breeches. I also then present an overview of obstetric breech maneuvers, basically of all recorded history, which starts around early 1600s to the present. I present information about the normal steps of physiological breech birth, so what we expect when everything is fine. And then I introduce a lot of the maneuvers that have been developed to deal with upright breech scenarios if the baby gets into trouble. So that's my end of the presentation. That's spread out over the two days of presentations, some in the first and some in the second day. So I'm a little bit more of the academic research angle, and then David takes over and does a lot of the clinical application. So David, I'll let you talk about the sessions that you do.
Right, so that's, am I on here?
Yes, you are.
I'm not seeing me. So yeah, as Rixa said, I think her presentation synthesizes the research in the background and presents the justification for everything that we're doing, actually. And my little piece of this is clinical skills. I will talk about normal breech birth, which I think it's very important to understand normal breech birth so you can recognize it when it's not normal. I use lots of videos from my own births. I will also go a deep dive into the maneuvers that you use when it's necessary to intervene, what situations you might want to intervene or not intervene, and that is also an important consideration. I talk a little bit about things like selection and exclusion criteria. So basically, it's intended to be a toolkit for the practitioner.
Excellent. Thank you both. Can you each give us an idea of what led you to this work and why it's important to you?
Yeah, for me, I came to it from an angle of women's autonomy and really having a hard time accepting the fact that 99% of women with breech presentations are forced into surgery that they're probably not really consenting to. Because you can't really give consent if you don't have a way to refuse the offered surgery or intervention. Informed consent means that you have the right to refuse and to accept alternatives, to say yes or no. And that has really rubbed me the wrong way ever since I learned about childbirth in general and breech birth specifically. So I've been really fascinated with it for years, and a couple of years ago got really involved in doing a deep dive into the research and combing through everything that I could find on PubMed from the beginning of PubMed to the present, so starting sometime in the early to mid 1800s. And that's kind of how a lot of my lectures and research originated, was when I decided to go through and read through every resource I could find on PubMed. So it's about 4,000 articles, give or take, that I sifted through and organized and filed away and read the full text of almost everything I could get my hands on. So, mine was coming a little bit more from an applied activist perspective, being a mother of 4 children myself, and being somebody who cares passionately about options and making sure that women actually have choices in how they give birth.
Excellent. Having given birth to a breech myself, I understand the need for autonomy. David, how about you? What brings you to this work?
Well, to a large extent, the same thing. I mean, from the time I was in residency, I chafed at the idea of local standards of care and hospital protocols that didn't comport with my reading of the research and of the literature. I was I'm actually a late to life physician, but so I was actually in residency when the term breech trial came out, and I had to scout around and find people to teach me how to do breech birth. And later on, I discovered that, you know, even if you had the skills, many hospitals simply wouldn't allow you privileges to do them. So, yeah, I agree that it is absolutely unconscionable that we're doing 150,000 unnecessary C-sections a year just because of breech presentation. And this seems like a compact enough problem that maybe I can take a little bite out of it.
Excellent. Thank you. I know that you're both going to be also presenting one of the main lectures during the main event other than the pre-conference. Can you give us an idea of what people would expect from that presentation?
Yeah, that one's a lecture about the normal mechanics and physiology of upright breech birth. So I go through the 10 steps that we've identified that you see in almost every upright breech birth. Upright meaning hands and knees, standing, kneeling, some variation of that. So there's really recognizable pattern with breech birth, and you can predict what you're going to see step by step. And if you don't see the next step, then you have an indication that something is off. There's a deviation somewhere in the normal mechanisms. So we present the normal mechanisms in this lecture in great detail. So first I present them and explain them, and then we watch a number of breech birth videos where we've pointed out the mechanisms as the birth is unfolding. Both ones where it's completely normal, and also a couple where there's some slight deviations where it doesn't go exactly how you'd expect, but then it corrects itself. So that's the lecture you'll see in the main session. So you really get a feel for what is the normal physiology, what's the normal pattern of events that you'd expect to see if everything is going as it should.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it, as I'm sure many others are. We've just begun to let people know that this event is going to be available. And we're already getting a lot of likes on social media and people that are excited to participate. So I really appreciate the work that both of you are doing and your agreement to partner with MANA and with Gold Online to get this information out there. If you were going to sum up what you want people to know about breech in 3 bullet points, 3 to 5 bullet points, what are the main takeaways that you want people to get to?
For me, I think that I would want people to come away with a respect for the complexity of breech birth. I hate to label things normal or abnormal. You know, there's these slogans that we throw around that sometimes oversimplify the issue. You know, breech is just a variation of normal. But I want people to be respectful of this really complex process, but also a process that you can understand and master. So I want to encourage people to come away with caution and with confidence at the same time. Caution not to be too rash and to do something that you're not fully prepared for, but also confidence that you can understand this process. And I think at the end of our 2 days, you really understand, and it makes so much sense, because all of a sudden we did demystify what's going on, and we demystify how you correct the problems too. You don't just start tugging and pulling and doing stuff. You only do stuff because you know exactly the effect it's going to have. So I think that's a really important lesson I want people to come away with. I would also want people to come away with a good knowledge of the evidence, both for hospital births and also for community births specifically. And this includes the knowledge that we have enormous gaps in the evidence for community breech births, and there's so much that we don't know, because largely the audience we're speaking to are people who might be doing them in birth center or home birth settings. So that's an important part of this too, is understanding not just what the hospital data says, but also what the home birth data says, and how we might talk about that with the clients that we serve.
Excellent. Do you also see this as a useful information that people can use to advocate for vaginal breech birth in a hospital setting and be able to use the evidence to get the plans or the birth that they are looking for.
Oh, absolutely. I think the evidence is definitely there that breech birth can be quite safe, and it can be as safe as cephalic birth if people know what they're doing. The problem is we've allowed ourselves to become de-skilled, and we have not, for some reason, found the motivation to get people re-skilled again. But if you have evidence that it can be almost as safe or just as safe in the short term, and that's just for the baby, and it's definitely more safe for the mother and more safe for any future babies, that's inarguable, really. I can't see the case for not relearning these skills. And especially if a hospital provider is uncomfortable with the idea of a breech birth at home, and many of them might be, then more so we should be encouraging this as a skill that every hospital should offer. Because again, if we are not offering these skills in a hospital setting, we are violating informed consent, and we're actually breaking a lot of laws as we go. Both federal and state laws mandate that we have to offer the ability to refuse surgery. But with no skill, we are offering nothing. We're offering the choice of an unassisted birth or maybe a home birth, but most people who are choosing a hospital birth don't want to do that. So I think that the only logical choice and the only ethical choice for people in a hospital setting is to reskill themselves. So that's why we're here.
Excellent. Thank you. David?
So I think there's also, you can look at it, as a half full or half empty glass situation, but I think there's also a big silver lining to the loss of breech skills, because the way that breech has been done for most of its lifetime, at least in the obstetric community, is a very interventional, hands-on extraction sort of approach to breech birth. And what the midwifery community has preserved, and what we now have really good research to support, is that the better approach is to be as hands-off as possible, to understand when a baby is in trouble, because there can be deviations from the mechanism that are still not interfering with the birth and don't require intervention. And you can cause more problems by intervening than by not intervening. So understanding when to intervene is at least as important as understanding how to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope this has given us an opportunity to completely change the direction and focus of attending breech birth.
Well, I'm really excited, as is the rest of the MANA board, for you to join us. And we are thrilled to be able to partner with Breech Without Borders to be able to bring this information to the midwifery community and hopefully be able to put breech back into its rightful place as potentially a safe variation that needs to be respected as all births. And I'm excited to be part of joining you in this movement. Is there anything either of you would like to add before we end our conversation?
Just, I would encourage you to sign up, take our course, and learn from some pretty amazing instructors. I am so thrilled to work with David, and I can't tell you how fun it is to see the way he approaches birth. It's funny because even for me, I had my first unassisted. I've had all my babies at home. Even for me, he's very, very non-interventive, and I think it's a good counterpoint because he has the obstetric background to be interventive and knows how, but he also has the deep knowledge of physiology and respect for the process that allows him not to be interventive. And I think it's a great mix that he brings in with his experience having attended breeches in home and hospital settings. Mm-hmm. So please, support our organization, support MANA by taking our class. Yeah.
Excellent.
I hope that everyone enjoys our virtual offering, which we, like everyone else in the country right now, is trying to figure out how to do and do well. But above and beyond that, I have to say that our breech workshops include extensive work hands-on work with an obstetric simulator, and and I think there's great value in actually doing that, doing the maneuvers on a realistic simulator. And I hope that those of you who are interested and enjoy what we have to offer will look for a workshop, and a live physical hands-on workshop one of these days.
And in the meantime, it sounds like it might be a good idea if for people that attend your online sessions to have at least a pelvis and a baby handy, maybe get together with their birth team to practice some of these scenarios together. So yes, in the meantime, we'll do the best we can and do as much hands-on while watching the computer screen as possible. So thank you both for joining me today, and we are very excited to be working with you and partnering with Gold Online together. So we look forward to it. And so everybody that's listening, well, go ahead, Rixa.
Oh, I was just saying thank you. Really appreciate it.
Certainly. So for everybody that has joined us today and is listening, please check out our registration. It'll be available and online by the end of July. And we're looking forward to getting Breech information and all of this excellent research and help out there to the midwifery community. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.